go to item 7B, 1, the Fenimore update. And I can give you just a brief update, which you probably all are aware of, and the Fenimore report will be released tomorrow. It will be released both to the public and the council at the same time. It will be available on the Township website. Printed copies will be available here in the Town Hall. And we will also be sending out an electronic notice to the public, the availability of the report. Whether you want to go online and look and print it, or if you want to come in here, we can, upon request, we can make you printed copies. Next Tuesday night at the gym on 72 Leland Avenue, we will have an informal meeting starting at 6 p.m. and then a council meeting at 7:30 p.m. We will be discussing, and you can discuss the report at that time. At 6 p.m. at the gym, we are going to have a informal session. We will have our professionals there to answer the questions. Mr. Rass will be in attendance, and we'll try and be as helpful as possible at that time. I'd like to get comments from our environmental attorney, Mr. Jacob Browser. He is the attorney we hired to represent us at the latest show cause hearing, which unfortunately we were ruled against by the judge, the Superior Court judge, and he didn't feel we could hold up the DEP. It was more important to suck out the hydrogen sulfide, and we would hold it up by trying to get the core samples. And so he ruled on that he would deny that. He also ruled that we couldn't get the core samples because, again, it would impede the DEP. We would be in their way. We didn't have hazmat suits, which we did. We didn't have qualified people, which we did. We hired an environmental firm to take care of this. Bottom line being, we were denied. I appreciate the 20 or so residents, from one of the number, who did attend. It was very disappointing. But what else is new, right? I'd like to ask Mr. Browser to come up and make some comments. Let us know what your take is on it. Mr. Browser is the environmental attorney.
Good evening, everyone. I'm sorry I'm not here under better circumstances, and I was asked to be here tonight to give you a little more thorough explanation of what happened at the order to show cause hearing before Judge Brennan last Wednesday. Essentially, my office filed the application on behalf of the township under two bases. One was to compel compliance with the emergency order that was entered by the DEP when it took over the landfill, and the other was based upon the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection's own regulations and guidance documents. We sought to force them to comply with their own investigative rules in connection with the landfill. We argued the matter before Judge Brennan for over an hour, and ultimately he found that the sampling that the township was seeking during the installation of the gas wells was not environmental monitoring as described under the emergency order. He did note that the DEP was acting under its emergency order, and it's always very difficult in matters like these, especially when you're dealing with the state or state agency in obtaining emergent relief, and you'd be hard pressed to find any Superior Court judge to second guess the discretion of the DEP. So from the beginning, the deck was slightly stacked against us. I thought we made the best application and arguments that we could possibly make. One positive note in the judge's decision was that he indicated that the DEP was not implementing its final remedy yet. That will happen after the emergency order is complied with and after the gas extraction wells and the long-term monitoring is over. The township has engaged an engineer whose independent report will be issued tomorrow. I've had the opportunity to work with the engineer over the last week and a half. He's highly qualified individual, and he has vast experience in the area and the issues that the town is dealing with. In terms of going forward, I would urge the township to continue to utilize the services of Mazer and Mr. Zelli. He's an invaluable asset to the township, and I would urge the township to review the NJDEP's final plan with scrutiny. And as the judge indicated, that the matter's not over yet, and there will be a final plan someday. And at the time the final plan is rendered, Mr. Zelli and Mazer will get to take a look at it and comment on it, and if it's not the remedy that's protective of the township will be able to make a different kind of application to comment on that plan and to implement a better plan if it feels it's appropriate. Additionally, one other thing that I believe should be considered, and this came about from reading the news articles that were generated as a result of the order to show cause. The DEP's own spokesman, Mr. Raganese, indicated that the soils had already been sampled at the landfill, and that's something I was unaware of. I believe that the township and its consultant should obtain those sampling results by way of an open public records request, and that may give the township the data it was looking for when it had the order to show cause filed. In short, we lost the battle, but the war is not over. The more final remedy will be coming, and a report will be issued, and there still is additional time to evaluate and comment on the DEP's final plan.
Council, Mr. Evans.
Thank you very much. First of all, it's a little disconcerting that a judge would vote against the Township of Roxbury. I don't think it's unreasonable to ask for soil samples. All we wanted to do is to be able to look at those samples and use those samples in such a way to validate, what plan was being implemented. So I just don't understand the judge's decision at this point. That all being said, I do agree with you. They did dig the 9 wells. And if they say they have soil samples, unless I hear objection here, can we open that and move forward as suggested?
That's his recommendation.
Definitely, we will open it tomorrow.
Okay, so we will move forward with that recommendation. The only problem here is this, is the fact that we don't know what kind of samplings they actually did. So I'm hoping that the OPRA request will be similar to the type of testing that we wanted to do in the first place. So we'll have to find out, because obviously we don't know right now. So I think it's a good idea. It's going to be shaking their head, so let's do it.
Thank you very much, sir.
One thing I forgot to ask, Mr. Mayor, was that the court set a date of April 21st to come back and argue the order to show cause in further detail. With the installation of the gas wells completed, I believe that the application would certainly be denied at this time. I believe it would be a waste of not only resources, but the township's valuable dollars to continue to engage me to argue that cause on its behalf, and I would recommend that it withdraw its application at this time.
Thank you. We will take it under advisement. Mr. Rabb?
Thank you.
I have several things, Mr. Mayor. As you know, there's been some questions about the streams, and we're following up with some of our own work on that. Mr. Medeiros and I walked the area with Mike Kovalars, and in addition to that, Bob Zelli was with us at the time. This was about 10 days ago, shortly after our last council meeting. I also want to, I spoke with Joe Dunn. He's with the Morris County Soils. The DEP has submitted their soil erosion and grading plan. That is the agency that will look into these questions about groundwater. They'll be looking at the questions about stream diversions, and they have the authority to review those concerns. So I mentioned that to Joe Dunn when I spoke with him, that we had concerns about the streams in the area, and he'll be looking into that as well too. They will be having a public hearing. I don't know the date of that right now. I need to confirm that as well too. So I need to confirm that But they are the agency that you can address some of your questions and concerns in regards to the stream, stormwater, and items such as that, Bob. Okay. Meeting next Tuesday, the location. I originally thought the location at the gym would be nice because this is a different type of meeting than you were had to endure with the DEP meeting. You are not only you are our neighbors, you are our citizens, you are our residents. My thought was is at the gymnasium, everybody's on the same level. Everybody can speak, presentations can be right there. There's no stage, there's no formalities. It allows a more give and take. Now, since that time, my fire official is concerned about the crowd. The gym only holds, it holds less than it was at the high school. So we are revisiting that. We have time to look at that. But in reality, it's something that we need to look at in order to do that. So we may change the location. I still like the idea of a give and take where we can talk and communicate, and not just be dictated to. In addition to that, I want to talk a little bit about the informational center, and it's an informational center. It'll be starting at 6 o'clock. As the Deputy Mayor indicated, we'll have staff and professional people there. They're going to be presenting information at various stations as to what's transpired over the history of this facility. They're going to be providing information on air, as Councilmember Hall likes to say, air and water. We're going to be talking about some of the police activities, the public health issues that have transpired over this going on 3 years now since that facility has been active. So we're going to be providing a great deal of information. I encourage all of you to attend and walk through. It is going to be set up where you can walk through, and you'll have different stations that you can go to, and you can talk to the staff. So a lot of information will be shared at that informational center, and I really encourage all of you to attend, starting at 6 o'clock. Let's see, I've got a couple more things. Talked about the location, talked about the streams, the monitoring system. We've been having a lot of questions about our monitoring system. As you know, the SO2, which we were assured was never ever going to be an issue by the DEP. Well, guess what? It was an issue. I have talked to Bruce Groves about the possibility of establishing an alert for the SO2 monitors, similar to what we do for the H2S. So we'll be looking at that. He is on vacation, but suffice it to say that if you are working for Roxbury Township or you are associated with Roxbury Township in any way whatsoever, you will work on vacation. So he is working on vacation on this matter, especially when it comes to Fenimore. Also, there's been we have a lot of good give and take and good discussion in regards to what levels people are comfortable with. We're using levels that are generally acceptable standards. We get a lot of information from residents that are not comfortable with those levels. So I actually have Mr. Groves and our IT director, and again, this is something that the residents can assist us with. We're trying to create an app. And what that app will do is allow you, the resident, to establish a level that you want to be alerted at. So if you're good with 2 parts per billion, then you could get an alert to that and you could take the appropriate action that you're comfortable with. We would continue with our same standards, but in reality, this would allow you, the resident, to establish standards that you find to be acceptable within the area. And lastly, in regards to that is, now that's going to take some time. And again, I've reached out to you because I know we have some very smart people in the audience who might be able to assist us in that endeavor. But we're working on that. Lastly, I got some emails in regards to, this is in response to the survey. At the last meeting, I indicated that we were looking into that. I questioned a resident in regards to what they thought a survey entailed. And I followed up with an email. We are looking into creating a survey, And in that email, I put in there that the township had actually reached out to the Division of Community Health Investigations back in October. The resident came back and said they wanted evidence to that effect. So on the table over there tonight is a letter to Lynn Wilder, PhD, CIH, Associate Director for Science, Division of Community Health Investigations, ATSDR, Buford Highway, from Fred Hall, Mayor Hall at the time, October 29th, and a response dated December 2nd, 2013 to that letter. So we are proceeding with that. I've made several emails over the months to the individuals. It was originally with Ms. Newworth, and it has now been rerouted to another individual. Rhinebeck, I believe, is the name. So I've made several communications with them as well too. Lastly, I know some of you folks are aware that last week I went to Pensacola, Florida, and visited the Softly landfill. It was a very good visit. I can tell you what, it was great to be back in that area. As some of you know, I'm originally from the South, so it was great to be back in that area and just enjoy the time. They were very forthcoming in regards to information. I have a lot more information that they are sending me as we speak. I can tell you again that it was a very good meeting. I will be putting together a full report for the informational center at that time. I will release it at that time. I think that you'll all be, I think that the wealth of information that will come out of that will be very knowledgeable for everybody in the room. So again, it was a very good visit, and the hospitality was, I had between 3 and 4 hours with those folks. So the hospitality was just really, really nice. Very well professional run organization. I noticed that, so some of the staff who are here tonight, I'll just tell you that we'll bring some of their other attributes up for discussion as well too. Well, yeah, some of my point.
Anything else, Mr. Red?
No, I'm good right now.
Mr. Rucco?
The municipal court case, which was argued the first phase, and penalties were assessed, has been appealed to the Superior Court. That case was argued the other day. The judge reserved decision. The case was argued by the prosecutor, the township's prosecutor handled the case at the municipal court level, and the judge has reserved decision at this time. So as soon as the judge issues a decision in that case, I'll pass that information along as soon as possible. I also attended the conference the other day with all the parties to this litigation in the state court. All 5 cases are now consolidated into one. So all parties are, the residents that filed suit, township suit, the DEP suit, and SCP suit are all now in one case and will be assigned to a new judge. Judge Manahan has been temporarily assigned to the appellate division, so the assignment judge is probably going to assign the case to a new judge for the discovery phase. The discovery phase was extended during the course of the conference. Parties put on the table the amount of damages and penalties that they were seeking. It's about $23 million, give or take, between damages and penalties between all the parties. So the judge extended the discovery period, and we'll continue to work on that case and send interrogatories and take depositions as the case proceeds.
Ms. Reed? Any comment? Okay, we're going to amend again, a little bit different. We have numerous items that need to be discussed this evening, including, very importantly, is the introduction of the 2014 budget. And Mr. Rass will make that presentation. So what we're going to do, in light of that, we're going to divide the public portion up In the first part, we will have 1 hour for public comment. We will then go back to our agenda, printed agenda here. We will also hear the budget presentation. And prior to going into the executive session, we will hear any comments that anyone else would like to make at that time. So please, whoever would like to speak. Yes, ma'am.
Melissa Datcherson, 6 Justine, please. I just have a question for Chris, because I had emailed back in October the idea about the health survey, and you were like looking into it. If that was available, if you had done that, why not answer my question and give me that information back then? Because quite honestly, you don't have the time to waste, and neither do I. And it's an important issue, and I understand the document sitting on the table, and I'll look at it, and that you're going to follow up with it, and she replied, or he, back in December. I still think there's more that the council can be doing in that area.
And that's why this is one avenue, and that is not I do not believe that's the extent that we can proceed, and that's why I asked you what you were thinking about in regards to the survey last week. And you said, listen, this is what we want, and that's why I then took that information and went to the Rutgers and followed up with the Rutgers in regards to that.
Okay, just on the record, it just seemed like last time you hadn't done anything, and you didn't mention that, and it got me more frustrated, to be honest with you, and I went back and forth with Jim, and I know he's exhausted, and he's tired of hearing crap from us. I'm quite tired myself, and that's what I told Jim. I've had it up to here. So come forthcoming with the information first, because I don't have time to look at work and look at all these emails. I'm glad you're doing it, but I hope the survey gets done before somebody dies, period.
Thank you. Anyone else? Keep in mind, you also are going to have an extensive session next week for comments in addition to tonight. Yes?
Hi, Angela Johnson, 3 Rollins Court. I just have a question. I was a little confused when the attorney was mentioning that the judge said that there was going to be a final report that comes out and there's a chance to comment or whatever. I guess I thought what the DEP gave us was already their final solution. Is there something else coming out, or did I misunderstand?
Yeah, they still haven't come out with a final closure. Am I correct?
You mean for the rest of the landfill, or?
No, they still have a lot of work to do in terms of documentation to provide in terms of capping the landfill. At the conference that I attended, I did find out, and I should have mentioned it earlier, but you just refresh my recollection, that they suggested that they were going to bring in, I think, 18 inches of clean fill for the balance of the site. So the site that hasn't been disturbed by SEP will essentially get an overlay of 18 inches of clean fill, and then they're going to seed it and let it go natural, let it develop naturally.
This has nothing to do with what Mr. Doherty put in there.
But then let me say this then, having said that, they haven't provided any of those details to us at all, so that we can provide that information to our engineers. They haven't given us any plans, they haven't done any of that. So that's what Mr. Browser was talking about.
Okay, and is that, just to make sure I understand, is that area that's been cleared, but just no new material dumped then?
It'll cover, I guess the answer to that question is yes, because it will only cover the areas of the old landfill that were not disturbed by SEP. So any part of that landfill that had the old garbage in it, the municipal solid waste, it's their intention to cover that with 18 inches of clean fill.
And what does clean fill mean? Does that mean just dirt, or
Yes,
what does that mean?
just
Okay.
dirt.
But it's tested dirt.
It's
tested,
right.
It's tested dirt to make sure that it has contaminants.
No CD fines.
I'm sorry, what?
No CD fines.
It's tested, it has to meet certain standards to be determined as clean.
Okay.
So it's tested. In addition to that, Mr. Bucco is right, they haven't finished their report because, as I said earlier, part of their permits include the soil and water conservation. That has to be part of the process before they complete their final report.
Okay, but their final plan is what they had presented. The final plan for this C&D area stuff is what, okay.
Yeah, and Angela, why don't we just cut it? You're asking, are they going to change their mind and truck it out?
Well, no,
No.
I mean, I didn't think they were going to do that,
let's-
but, yeah,
I want you to,
yeah.
I mean, they they're just not budging off that position. But as far as a good point though on the, we should absolutely put in writing as of tomorrow, clean fill does not include CD fines under any way, shape, or circumstance.
Under the protocol, they couldn't use C&D fines. I mean, they have to cap it with clean fill.
Okay.
I mean, that's not an issue, but before they do that,
Yeah.
Mr. Ball, they've got to provide us with a plan. And the plan will tell us exactly what they're going to do there.
Okay.
So if we see anything out of the ordinary, as Mr. Browser indicated, it would be at that time that we'd have the ability to say, hey, wait a minute, stop.
Okay.
You know, this isn't consistent with your protocols.
Yeah, okay. Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead and finish, I have a question.
I guess I was just surprised because I thought that in one of their fact sheets or at the meeting or something, they had said they weren't addressing the rest of the landfill, so I just.
I can tell you they said a lot of things at that meeting that didn't make a lot of sense and that weren't very accurate.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Bucco, are we going to have an opportunity when they do that to be up on the landfill? Are we going to be able to observe it?
Our experts have been up on the landfill even during the drilling process this last couple of weeks. We weren't allowed to test,
Right.
but they have not stopped us from entering the landfill because we have a right under the emergency order to be there.
Yeah, it's very specific. I don't know a lot about that. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Paris Palace, 3 Condon Street, Sikasana. One of my concerns is, at that DEP meeting that we were all at, one of the words they used was forever, that they're going to intervene and take care of it forever. They used the word forever. And what bothers me is that the cost to truck it out would be, what, they said $38 million? Forever, it's gonna be a lot more than $38 million. Is it in writing somewhere that they have promised, even though I don't want them to do what they're doing, that they're going to take care of the problem forever? It has to be in writing, because if they said that, then you need to make sure that legally they are responsible to take care of it forever. And it's going to cost a lot more than $38 million, and that really is a joke, because they really don't know what the heck they're doing. Anyway, that's it. Do you have it written somewhere where they legally are bound?
There's gonna come a point in time where this issue is gonna have to be determined, and it may end up in court, maybe it may end up as part of one of those cases that I spoke about earlier, because the DEP, while they have control over the landfill, have never taken title to the landfill. So the underlying owner of that landfill is still SEP. At some point, there's going to the decision is going to have to be made as to who ends up owning that site forever. And whoever that owner is going to be will obviously be responsible for maintaining that site. So this is an issue that, you know, we are either going to amicably resolve or we are going to litigate. And we discussed that point at the conference as well.
If the SEP, in the end, turns out to be the owner of all this, then the DP is relieved of that forever business. And we really need to be careful about that.
There's no question.
They're making promises that they need to keep.
There is no question.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Gentleman in the back?
Yes, sir. Victor Dean, 243 Main Street, Edgewood. I got a little nervous when he just said, Mr. Hall, said, they're not going to let us truck it out. What are you doing, throwing your hat in?
No, I'm telling you what they have told us. This is what they have told us.
We don't want to hear that. We want to hear you say, they're going to truck it out. If we got to block the gate, you guys won't and back us. That's what we want to hear.
Listen, we've been there since the beginning, and you know I have been there since the beginning. I don't like
No,
what they
you haven't been
said.
there from the beginning at all. Not at all. I told you 7 8 months ago, have all the children at school, send letters to Trenton, send letters to Washington, D.C. Did you send that? How many letters got sent?
Okay.
No, I'll answer the question for you. Not one. Okay, what?
Do you realize I've been to Trenton 12 times fighting for this thing? Do you
Pardon me?
realize that? Do you realize I've been to Trenton 12 times fighting this thing? Do you realize
I realize that, but you know what? If you lost down there, the best thing for you to do is get in the town car, take him and his crayons, and head to Washington. You gotta fight, not just pretend. Fight.
I think we have been fighting. I just don't
I
want to
don't think so.
Will you let me talk? Are you going to let me talk?
Well, if you make sense, yeah.
Well, let's have a discussion. We don't
Okay.
get shouting back and forth.
Well, you know what? You come to my house and you live there for 2 hours and you'll be here shouting too.
You're welcome to come next
Do
week.
you want me to give you an unrealistic expectation? You want me to stand up?
No,
here
why
and
don't you
lie?
tell the truth?
I am telling the truth. They
go
are
ahead.
not in a position right now. I asked the question during that meeting. If you remember correct, do you remember the question I asked?
No, I don't.
Why not? You were sitting right
I'll tell
there.
you why I don't remember, because everything you said so far is hogwash.
Okay.
No, it is not.
Yes, it is.
One of the things I asked,
I don't agree with you.
one of the things.
We're the ones suffering, you're not. I don't agree with you, not one bit.
That's certainly
Go ahead.
prerogative.
Mr. Hall's talking, please, let him talk. Go ahead.
A couple of things that I asked right off the bat, they were making a case
Yeah.
right off the bat that it's going to take the same amount of time to truck it out, or they said it's going to take longer to truck it out than it would be if in fact they capped it. But if you look at the timelines, and we all noticed it right away, it turned out to be about the same amount of time. So that was thrown completely out the door. The second thing was Angela. Angela, to her point, okay, was if both cases were the same as far as the finances, would the decision be the same? And I asked that question. On both of those situations, I did not get an answer.
Of course not.
Okay? Well, what I'm trying to say to you, okay, is this. First of all, to Angela's point, which I had my hand on, and the deputy mayor must have not seen it, is that they did not calculate in there what the cost is going to be over the perpetuity of this entire scenario.
We know all of that.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, okay, so the fact that they're comparing 38 against 8 really is not a good number.
For $38 million, I'll go back in the trucker business and haul it out of there and go away a millionaire. Of course, I understand what you're saying.
Okay, but the point I'm trying to make here is to stand up here and suggest that we haven't done anything here.
I didn't say you didn't do anything. You didn't do enough. That's my point. Not enough.
That's
It
your
was a
opinion.
simple thing like, not only me, everybody in here.
Well,
A simple thing, like I said, 7, 8 months ago. Kids play a key role in this. Why don't you have them do that? The parents could work off the paper, the envelopes, and the stamp. It might have done some good. We'll never know now, will we?
Victor, are you aware that I went to schools and I went to the classrooms?
No, because you never mentioned it after I said it.
Why do I have to mention every place I've been trying to fight this?
Because that was the plan we tried to make. You don't want to follow up on the plan or no? That's like him going to court like you did last week unprepared.
Victor, we've been in this thing since the beginning, okay? I have gone to schools and I've given classes on this so people really understand what's going on. So the kids are aware of this also.
Well, why don't you tell them, write letters, we'll send them to Washington.
We will continue.
Well, actually, if I'm not mistaken,
No,
I
you
think,
didn't
I
say
think,
that.
I think REACT actually did send a whole bunch of letters.
Did
And, yeah, and I think they sent them to the governor's office,
Every-
and I think they did send them down to, am I wrong? You guys also sent them
We
down to
did, we
Washington?
set up a React, used a couple of stores like Cambiotti's and Landing and stuff, and children dropped off letters. Also Jefferson Elementary School, the principal sent notices out, and children were welcome to write letters to Governor Christie, and she personally mailed letters. I don't know the true amount, but I know when we mailed ours out, we had a good amount, and I know that children, like my children, before React or the schools did anything, they were already sending emails and letters. So I do know that the children of Roxbury.
And how many got answered?
I don't.
You would be up there.
I don't think I know any that have gotten
How many got
any
answered?
written response, but
Yeah,
that's
you-
not us, that's our government that didn't respond.
Let me say this, a lot of them were copied to me when I was mayor, and that's why I went to the schools to congratulate the kids for sending those letters.
Okay, well, let's simplify it. How about if me and all the other people are suffering from this for almost 3 years, we're tax exempt until it's cleared up. Let Roxbury handle it. Right there.
Well,
What
we've
do you
said, well, you have, we've said this on numerous occasions, and we actually encourage people to do this. We've had 2 sessions in regards to the tax assessor, that you go in and talk to the tax assessor about this and your property values. We've said that here on several occasions, and he's had 2 informational sessions in the last couple of months.
And if we go talk to them, then what? Then we're gonna have to come back here, so why don't you just cover the whole ball? And just
Well,
say,
he actually would file an appeal. He'd file the paperwork. So Victor, we mentioned that before, so.
Okay,
are we making out with that, like we are with the cleaning out the landfill, or?
When you asked me a question, I answered it, so I would encourage you to reach out to him.
we are going to have a limited time tonight, so if you don't mind, sir, I'd like to get another speaker up here.
Of course you would. Okay, gentlemen,
Thank you very much.
when we block the gate, I want you guys to lead the way.
Yes.
Hi, Shannon Cacavella, 32 Mountain Road. I just have a question. I mean, obviously, we all come here, you know, weeks, we send emails, we correspond back and forth. Where exactly do each of you personally stand on this matter? Do you want it trucked out? Do you want the scrubber system? Do you want, because God knows I want it out of here. I don't want it in my backyard. And I know a lot of residents are fighting for the same thing. But where do you guys want? Like, I've never heard anybody out of all these weeks, and as I'm sitting here listening tonight.
One of your residents did ask that question before, and we wanted to review the report, which we didn't have in hand, you don't have in hand, we don't have in hand, and trust me, we don't have it. We'd like, before any comment, we'd like to see our professionals' report. The DEP put on their document, on the show, we want an opportunity to read the report, and we want to make sure that you have read it, you come to that meeting, we're encouraging you to come next week.
Are you aware that next week is spring break, and I know dozens and dozens of families that will be away that have already have planned
I
vacations?
personally did not, but we will also.
It is spring break, and you know, I personally am away, so I or my family cannot be there, and I know that there's a lot of other people that are going out of town. I know that that could be a big deal. So when you're talking about numbers of coming in, I hate for you, maybe you could do it twice, maybe you could do something, but I mean, for people that have been in this from the beginning, I don't want to cancel my vacation.
May I suggest, I know you, it sounds like you won't be able to attend, but a couple of things, we can take that into consideration, and I did not know that.
And I don't want to push it any
Because
further. If
right.
you can move it further before spring break and before
No,
Easter,
we won't be able
you
to
know,
do
but it is spring break, and there are
Next week,
people that have planned vacations.
And today's Tuesday, so no, we wouldn't even be able to advertise it in time. But what we can do is that you will have the information in advance. It's coming out tomorrow. And if you can generate questions over the next couple of days, we can do that. I've already talked to the council about the information center, that we actually would be putting it out here once the meeting is over. So an opportunity to do that, and then we can judge, you know, we can judge the interest at that time in regards to a secondary meeting. So I think we can do that.
I mean, even too, I mean, social media is a huge play in today's society, and maybe if the council can set up, I'm not personally, you know, aware, like even on their Facebook page could say who's attending next week, get some numbers, and who's coming, that maybe you get a better idea on how many people need this information, that, hey, I'm gonna be away. You know, it's important that everybody gets the same information, and if we miss out on the time that I can ask questions personally, you know.
Well, it's interesting because prior to this meeting, Mr. Rath had indicated that he was considering this, getting a second session. And I said, well, you know, is everybody gonna feel we all wanna make the first session so we can be there? So it has
That wasn't a
considered.
response to
Now, we
the
have-
spring break, that was a
Yeah, we didn't know
response
there
to
was
trying
no
to
spring
use the
break.
gym over again.
Right,
Now, if you got enough people that are out of town, I would certainly support it.
okay. And then, you know, over the past couple days, the weather has changed, it's been a lot warmer, and the smell has returned. And returned to my backyard, returned to my home again, and it's concerning that, you know, the wells are dug and the scrubber's up and all their promises, but it still hasn't really.
Well, Shannon, the wells are dug.
Yes.
They have not connected them to the
There's
system.
a lot of work in connecting all that pipe.
They're
I understand, but the smell has been, you know, now that your windows could be open a little bit more and you can enjoy sitting outside, it's a lot more obvious of the H2S. It's not the smell, it's the, you know, the poison that's coming into our lives.
You also have the smell. Now, they attribute some of that to when they actually dug the wells. And then secondly is they'll install the collection system.
Correct, and there
and then
also
they're going
seems
to-
to be a different smell, like a detergent type of sweet smell that,
Well, you need to report that. I think
I
that
have,
has. Just yesterday when they had the 96 parts per billion, they had 24 complaints. Okay. Kerry Flug indicated that to me today, and I think they responded back to about half of those people who had requested a response back.
so that's it, just wanted to say. So you guys are waiting for your town report, for the expert report to come out before you guys make a judgment on how you guys feel about trucking it out?
And yes, and this, we did indicate this prior, a couple of council meetings ago, someone did bring the same question up. You can't make a judgment unless you got something to read.
But
You're gonna
personally,
get
you
it?
can. Personally, I can personally make a judgment before I read that expert report that I want it out of my backyard. So it's hard that people are questioning, are you for us, are you against us, are you
Let
stand?
me tell you something, from the get-go, we've been for you. And I look at it from, if I lived up there, not you, but if I lived up there, what would I be doing? I'd be in that damn seat too complaining. Let me tell you something, I would. So we don't look down on you for the complaints. We're trying to do the best we can to solve this problem, the
Okay.
best way.
Thank you.
And we will continue to work for you. I can't emphasize that enough. And here's a good example,
No, I know.
a ton of time.
We all put
You
it
do.
in.
How many letters have you
Residents
written? How many people work during the day and then
Hundreds
get
of
on and start
thousands
emailing?
of
You do.
hours to go in on this, as I'm
We
sure.
get those emails, we recognize what you're doing, and we appreciate it. You went to court last week, that's about 20 people. You work, I work, we were there in the courtroom, we were there for you. And we'll continue, I guarantee you, we will continue.
I look forward to the expert report tomorrow.
Me too. Yes, sir. Bob?
Bob Medeiros, 4 Nelson Drive, Ledger, New Jersey. On behalf of the VFW, as an all-state commander for 3 years, I thank you for your presentation about
I
the
didn't
hobby.
realize you were here, Bob, I apologize, I would have given it to you.
I appreciate it. Now, in reference to Fenimore, just a footnote on a question. I promised my wife I wasn't going to come up here. Here I am. The topsoil that's going to be spread out, keep in mind, there's all trees on the old landfill. Is that going to be cut down? Is that's something to keep in note?
As I indicated, they just kind
A
of,
future
they just
question.
kind of let this out during the course of a conversation,
Right.
and I immediately wrote it down because that's the first that I've heard of what they intended to do on the old landfill. I mean, if you remember, we asked that question, and their response was, well, we don't know. So during the course of this conference, when the Deputy Attorney General said, well, we're gonna put 18 inches of clean topsoil on the balance of the site and close it out, I said, okay. And that wasn't the time to say to them, well, what about the trees, or what about this, or what about that? But that is all gonna have to come to us in a plan so that we have an
I
opportunity
agree.
to do it.
And I just wanted to make sure that that was a footnote.
Bob, in addition, if they're going to be putting that in, they will be changing the grades, and they will be changing the
Absolutely.
stormwater runoff.
Absolutely.
And these are all other items that would have to
Yes.
be reviewed by the Soil Water Conservation.
My point exactly. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bob. Bob?
Bob Schultz, 42 Mapledale Avenue. I was wondering, why weren't the residents alerted about the hearing?
I think we found out the night before.
Yeah, I mean,
You did.
It's a very important matter that a lot of people care.
on an order to show cause, and I didn't do it, so I only found out after being contacted from Mr. Grouser. So, on an order to show cause like that, once you file it, what happens is a judge just decides what day he's gonna hear it, and you normally just get a call and say, be here tomorrow. So, as soon as he conveyed that information to me, I conveyed it to the township, and quite honestly, it just happened just like that, 1, 2, 3, and the next day, it was
So
heard.
you found out the night before.
Yeah, I think so, the night before.
So there was time to get word out to us, because we're all the residents here, and we supported all the legal actions and everything else. And the only reason we knew about it and we showed up was because a reporter told us. That's the only reason. Otherwise, that whole place would have been empty except for you.
It wasn't done deliberately, trust me. We
Yes.
encourage you when
It's
you're
sad.
there.
I mean, there would have been a
No
lot
way
of
I show
residents
up.
there. Talking about the landfill, and I heard about hazmat suits before and the DEP. I've been up there every single day watching that landfill. They've not had any oxygen on. They haven't had any hazmat suits on.
It was a good argument on court.
And drilling stuff, because they took the truck out today.
They did, yeah.
They finished all
Yes.
21 wells.
Why wasn't the report that you guys have done, it's obviously done. Why is it being delayed till next week when you made a press release about it last week?
So you're gonna have it tomorrow morning.
Well, I mean, why wasn't it released last week?
It wasn't finished.
It wasn't done yet.
We had to wait for we
There were,
had hoped for samples.
actually, there's a section, and this is what I was saying to Chris before, there's a section in the report that deals with the Sulphey landfill. And our experts had communications with the Federal Department of Environmental Protection, one of the engineers down there, about the Sulphey landfill. So when Chris told me he was going to the Sulphey landfill and he was going to review it with his own eyes, I said, okay, when you come back, provide our experts with the information that you gleaned to make sure that it's consistent with what they were told by the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. Last night, he prepared his notes, got it to me, I got it to them today, and it was consistent what we had heard, but there were some additional facts that we didn't know from the Florida Department of Environmental Protection that Chris got from being on site. So, you know, that's why.
That was advantageous, but we also were waiting on the soil. As the mayor said, we were waiting on the results of the hearing, so if we could get the samples.
So you guys couldn't just like pick up some scrapes along the way since you were allowed on the site?
Wishful
Is that a
thinking.
serious question?
Wishful thinking. They won't comment on that, yeah, I'd love to do it.
I'll give you a trail next time.
In the law that Governor Christie signed, the landfill closure law, there is a section in there called C13 1E 125.3. It's a site plan approval required. And it says, notwithstanding the provisions of any other law to the contrary, any person who undertakes the closure of a legacy landfill or the owner or operator of a closed sanitary landfill facility who accepts for any reason solid waste, recyclable material, contaminated soil, covered material, wastewater treatment, residual material, dredge material, construction debris, or any other waste or material shall apply for and obtain site approval pursuant to the provision of the municipal use land law. Did you guys approve the plan for the NJDEP?
We're not, well, that section was actually added in there because of Roxbury.
Which gives you
Because-
the right to
because-
approve or
Let me finish. That section was actually added there because of Roxbury. And the situation where the developer was suggesting that he didn't have to come for site plan approval in order to finish off the site and place the solar arrays. Okay? So what that now does is place it in the law that anybody that closes a landfill like that has to come for final site plan approval. Right now, as Mr. Grouser indicated, they're not to that point yet. Right now, they are only remediating the gas situation under the emergency order, which the judge has indicated gives them great leeway. Once they move from that aspect to come to a final closure plan, then yes, then we hope that we'll have some say. And I
But
think
they've
we
already
will.
said this is a closure plan, and now they're talking about doing the rest of the landfill as well. They're talking about closing the 17-acre zone. That's what
They're
the report
talk-
says, so
oh.
you guys would have the ability to stop this.
We haven't gotten all the details on capping. We haven't gotten any details other than a deputy attorney general tell me that they were going, and the other parties, that there were going to be 18 inches of clean fill on the bottom of the landfill. That all has to be done. So, you know, we're not to that stage yet.
So you're saying you can't invoke this piece
Not-
for the
not at this
closure?
point.
Because the
Not at this
hydrogen sulfide odors have been abated. The emergency order is really taking care of it at this point in time.
I don't think, I mean, you just heard that there were complaints this morning. I don't think the hydrogen sulfide odors have been abated at all at this point.
It's been evaded by a very active system that many people have concerns about.
Right.
Sure.
Okay, so if it's been abated and they remove the equipment,
I mean, you gotta be careful what you're gonna argue here, okay?
And they're also going to close the landfill with a cap and 16 inches of material.
That's not what,
well, you know, Bob, I think you raised a good point. The first time you brought it up, we should take a look at it. We'll go back.
Have you guys looked into that part of the law at all
We
right
can
now?
look-
It's,
we can
I
look
mean,
into
it's
it.
not,
Listen, this goes
It's
both
not
ways.
good,
We
yes.
appreciate you bringing it to our attention.
we'll take a look at it, but based on the judge's decision, based on the arguments that were made, based on the emergency order that we have right now, we're not to that stage. That's the problem.
But in 12 weeks is what it takes. And
Absolutely.
if we got to start doing something now in order to stop it in 12 weeks. Because then we're done.
thank you. Bill, sorry.
Lazarus Drive in Ledgewood. I guess expanding on what Bob said, I'm just not understanding this. At what point is it defined that, I'll wait till you guys are done because I think this is more for Attorney Bucco. I guess my question is, at what point is it defined that the township does have an opportunity to approve or disapprove the plans? You're saying it doesn't apply to what they're doing under the emergency order, it applies to what they do under the landfill closure.
There's nothing in that act that gives us authority for stopping the DEP from remediating that landfill as they see fit. I mean, if they do everything within their protocols, then, you know, I don't know how you're gonna stop them. I mean, a site plan approval only deals with landscaping, you know, and we've done some of that. We've sent them actually drawings and landscaping recommendations for the outside of the landfill. It hasn't been disturbed. So, you know, I don't know, there's nothing in that Legacy Landfill Act that says the township's got the right to stop someone. They still have primary jurisdiction, and that would be the same for somebody in another municipality that went to close one of these legacy landfills. You still couldn't go in and say to them, you know, you can't bring it up this road, or you can't do this or you can't do that. It's preempted. You know, the state is preempted the townships from any jurisdiction in that regard. Now, going to the land use board is something different, but again, that's merely for landscaping and for the final product.
Then how come why are they bothering going to the Soil Conservation Committee, working with Joe Dunn, getting approval for those types of things? And you
Because
mentioned
nobody is exempt from them.
So you're saying even under the emergency order, they're not exempt from that?
No, they still have to get soil erosion because you can't, the state, it's part of the whole clean water thing, you know? I mean, the state won't allow somebody to do something on a piece of property that will wash into the stream, sediment, etc.
They're not even exempt.
So,
And that's why these things go before the Soil and Water Conservation Committee. And that's why you get a public hearing.
Okay. So I guess what you're saying is that we won't reach that point until they finish the plan that they presented to us. In other words, they expand the gas mitigation system, they put the geomembrane cap over, they put the soil on top of that, they plant grass. Then at that point, the township would be involved in...
I would think that we're going to be involved along the entire process in terms of making sure that everything they've done out there meet the requirements that they have to operate on, you know, their own protocols.
Well, they actually don't, because I don't know if this is true, but they have indicated to me multiple times that they're not governed under NJAC 726E DEP landfill remediation standards. They're operating under the Legacy Landfill Act under this emergency order. They don't have to get permits. They do a permit equivalent review for everything that they can. And they don't have to answer to anyone, and they're going to finish their plan.
But if they don't, when you say they have an internal review, right? What that means is they have to present their plan internally, and that plan has to meet the requirements of the DEP. So if something comes out that doesn't meet, even though they've done their internal review, but it doesn't meet their protocol, and you call them out on it, then that's an issue, if you can prove it.
Yeah, but you can't call them out on what you don't know. And they did that for the stack test, and here it is 6 months later, we can't even get those results. And, you know, we've over those stack tests, this is going back to October, they've been operating that stack. You still don't have the results.
We have that one little summary they gave.
And if you could explain that to me, I'll give you an endorsement.
I don't need an endorsement, thank you very much. I'm here whether you endorse me or not, we're doing the best thing we can, but thanks. Now, let me just respond to that.
I'm not criticizing you, what I'm saying is that these permit equivalent reviews are meaningless to me.
Well, I'm just going to go back to...
Because you can't get the information to even refute.
Bill, you asked a question, and I'll go back to the clerk, because we had sent back that in regards to their Oprah response as being completely inadequate. And we continue to proceed with that. It's completely inadequate to tell you that you have to submit another request to ask for additional information because they have to create additional information. That's irresponsible.
I agree with you, and I appreciate the follow-up, but I guess what I'm saying is that by the time we get that information, they're 6 steps ahead of us, and they've built God knows what on this site.
The good news is that we've been able to have our experts on the site to follow this process at every step. Actually, it was our expert that suggested the additional 30 wells. I mean, that was our expert's recommendation to the DEP. You know, I mean, he said right from the beginning, a year and a half ago, when they sunk the first 9 wells, and they only went down so many feet, he told me, and he told the DEP, that wasn't adequate. There should be at least an additional, he suggested additional 30. And now he's looking at the grades and he's saying, yeah, it'll probably work. You'll see it in the report, but,
I mean, I don't want to talk about this all night. I guess what I'm trying to get at is it appears that they're allowed to operate under their own jurisdiction to complete this emergency order without a lot of the township's input. And I guess what I'm saying is that whether the township agrees or not, and whether it meets DEP's regulations or not, even if it does, maybe it's not the best solution for this township. They may put this membrane cover over it, and then there's really no turning back. And that's a concern of, I think, everyone in this room. So I'll leave it at that. I want to know where this 18 inches of soil on the rest of the landfill came up, because I don't know who even has the jurisdiction to do that right now.
came up at the conference that I attended before Judge Colburn, who brought all the parties in to discuss the status of the case and the consolidation of all the state court cases. And during the course of our discussions regarding damages that each party has sustained, during the course of our discussions about moving forward, about possible settlements in the case, that the Deputy Attorney General just, during the course of one of his conversations, said, and with the balance of the site, I think the judge asked him a question about ultimate ownership of the site, as I indicated earlier. That may get litigated in the end, because that was, a big point that I raised during the course of the conference. I said, township, somebody's got to own this thing at the end, and they're going to be responsible for maintaining it. And, and whoever does it has to have the wherewithal to be able to maintain it. And that's when he just started speaking, the Deputy Attorney General, and he just said, well, this is what we're going to do. This is what the DEP has planned for the part that was disturbed, and for the balance of the landfill that was never properly capped. It's our intention to put 18 inches of clean fill around the top as a natural cap, and then let it develop naturally.
And they have the jurisdiction to do that right now, or that's pending litigation?
To be honest with you, I haven't gotten into it that depth to determine that yet, because, like I said, I haven't seen that in writing. It was just something that their attorney said during the course of the conference.
This is the first that we're hearing about,
Right.
and I can tell you that somebody brought it up earlier. This is a 60-acre tract.
I understand.
Look,
But I mean, this is like a kind
the
of a
point
chicken.
being is that you just can't go out and put 18 inches soil. There has to be some thought to this.
I understand.
So
But this is kind of a chicken and the egg thing. You're saying there's questions on who's going to own the site and whether they're going to have the means to go through. Shouldn't that be determined first before someone proposes some solution that may be impossible to maintain or impossible to fund, or get into the hands of someone that may not have the capability of doing that, and then things got to get worse again before they get better? Shouldn't that be determined first before the best long-term solution and what it's going to require?
That's why I brought it up at the conference.
Okay. I mean, I'm just hoping that you share these same concerns. One thing I wanted to bring up on the health survey, that's from the ATSDR. That isn't really a health survey.
It's a health consultation.
It's a health consultation. It's very similar to what Mr. Eldridge provided to the township, from what I've seen.
Oh, no, it's far more in depth than that.
It is a little bit more in depth
Oh,
than that.
it's far more, because I actually have seen them. They're far more.
I've seen it too. I agree. It's a little more in depth than that. But I think what the residents are referring to as a health survey, and we saw this in the Softly Field report, is where residents are given questionnaires to fill out every day for 30 to 60 days. Residents are given H2S badges to wear
And that's what we asked of our.
that are collected.
That's what we
and-
asked of the professionals at Rutgers as well too.
Okay. I just wanted to distinguish that what they're doing for us isn't really, I think, what people are asking
Yeah,
for.
they did it, well, that's why I asked the question. That's why they did it in conjunction with the TSDR.
Okay. Stack of test reports, I guess we're still waiting on. You've reopened the balance,
Yeah.
you said.
And you got an email today, I guess, because you CC'd me on it, and they CC'd their response. Did you address anything in regards to the stack test?
No, it was not. Other than we exceeded the regulatory limit yesterday for SO2.
They also addressed the ATSDR and some of your other standards as well too?
They did.
Okay.
They responded. I don't think they addressed them.
Okay, just wanted to share that with us, so thanks.
They responded. One thing I think fell through the cracks, I know that there was some doubt by the DEP regarding the accuracy of the monitors, and I think the last time I was here, Mr. Bucco was not here. I know that we commissioned Emilcott to do some kind of study to make sure that the monitors were calibrated, and the last time I asked about it, I don't think you were here,
No, I wasn't,
but you said that there was going to be a report that they were going to issue showing residents that they believe the monitors are accurate. And I'm just wondering, is that something that's going to be published? That's something that's going to be shared?
I asked Elmcott for that, to address that issue in writing to the township, and I haven't received it yet,
Okay.
but I asked him for it.
Do you know what the results of the report were?
I can tell you that Elmcott insists that the readings are accurate. Actually, I think Mr. Blood had some conversations with Bruce Groves about some of the spikes that were related to trucks in the area during snow events. So, you know, his opinion is they are absolutely accurate.
There are two issues there, as you know. One of the spikes, and then the secondary one is the low-level reading of the 10 parts per billion. I think he's prepared to respond to the spikes. There's still some questions at the lower levels of what is transpiring there.
The drift, as they call it.
Well, yeah,
And just one last comment. I know, you know, your attorney, you know, for the hearing that we just had, indicated that he didn't think it was worth going back to court, and I'm not an attorney, so I don't know what the chances are, but I actually think you should go back. I think you have a good shot at it because the wells are dug, you're not holding them to DEP anymore, and I think it's proven that everyone was afraid to break through this cap. Everyone thought the town was going to have to be evacuated, and you know, God forbid we break through the cap, and I think they broke through the cap, and we lived through it. You know, there was only one time the levels got high throughout the digging of the 30 wells, or however many they were. And I think that tells you something. That tells you that, you know, we could break through this cap and it's not the end of the world, and I think you could take core samples. It's not going to hold up the DEP. And I wasn't at the hearing, but I listened to some tapes, and I listened to the DEP's attorney stating how they would need supply air and hazmat suits, and it was going to take too long to exchange the supply air. And what Bob said is true. You know, some residents took pictures and posted them with telephoto lenses. None of those guys had any protective gear on. The drill operator, there were guys sticking their heads in the well pouring, I don't know if it was chemicals or water in there. That's another question, but they didn't seem concerned about it. You know, they
used it as an argument.
Use that as an argument. And I think there is reason to believe that there's stuff in there because we had those water tests DEP still refuses to share that tested the leachate coming out of the landfill back in July that showed the elevated levels of arsenic, lead, and aluminum. And those were the tests that I went over with you and the laboratory director of Garden State Labs.
They were shared. They were shared.
They were never shared publicly.
Go back and check on that.
I mean, those weren't township tests. Those were DEP tests.
Right, I'll confirm.
And the only reason why I have them is because we opened them. They were never shared with the township. I don't even think they were shared with the township.
No, I'll have to confirm them because we had them and that's why we went over them and he came back and said, and I think he answered most of your questions about that. to your satisfaction, you left the meeting that way.
I did, but I don't think that the rest of this room knows what was in those reports. And there were elevated levels of arsenic, lead, and aluminum found in the leachate. And
Again, he explained, I want to make clear that when you left the room, he had explained all of those, so if we're going to release reports, we need to have a good explanation as well too. Sometimes we'll release reports without backup, and this is also some of the stuff that will be shared at the informational center. Okay, so I encourage you to go to that. So some of these reports and some of the testings that were done, there'll be people there that hopefully will be able to assist you in that. In fact, one of the things we're going to try and do is have Harvey there. He does a very good job of it.
it's good. I just think that you could maybe use those reports to show that there's some suspected contamination in that pile. And from the digging that I've done and the professionals I've spoken to, the reason why they weren't shared is because those waters on the landfill aren't classified. It's kind of like a workaround. Because they're not classified as groundwater or surface water, these streams that, they aren't really streams, they're streams that occur when the leachate pond overflows due to heavy rains. Since they're not classified, they're not really required to compare them against any standards. So what they do is they keep going downstream until the tests come back okay, which is what they did. They eventually went down the Ledgewood Pond, and the tests came back okay, and then that is what they share. But the actual contamination on the landfill is there. You know, whether you could compare it to a groundwater or surface water standard, I think I don't even have a handle on that, but it's there and they're elevated, and we all know that depending on what day you take these tests, how much it rained, how much is overflowing, I think that stuff is going in the Ledgewood Pond. Now whether it dilutes enough to essentially, in the end, get below these surface water or groundwater standards, I mean, that's to be seen. You have to test that every day for a month. But I think you should try to use those reports for your argument. That's the comment I have. And I also think those should be shared with the public.
I'll go back and confirm it.
Okay.
Please come next week.
Yeah, and Bill, that was the impetus behind trying to get all the soil samples at different various levels. That's what we're trying to do, so we could test out just the things you're mentioning right now, which would have worked out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Good evening, Myrna Hernandez, Conkling Road. I attended the court hearing this last week, and I don't want to Monday, what is it that they say, Monday morning quarterback, but I think a great disservice was done to the town in the way that that hearing was handled. One, it was quite apparent, and not to put fault on him, because I can't even imagine having like a few days to prepare for something like that. You know, we had residents had asked the council to consider an injunction for weeks, including at the DEP hearing at the high school, and it seems like everything was thrown together. I might be wrong, but it just seemed very thrown together. Our lawyer didn't have all the facts, which again, it's not necessarily his fault. It's, but what was disappointing was the way the council, the way the town's, I guess, plan was to say that the town was fine with everything the DEP was doing, but could we please go in and take samples? And of course the judge denied the injunction. Of course, there was no adversary. We weren't adversaries to what the DEP was doing. And for him to go through the four elements from Crow versus DeJoya, it became pretty apparent that there was nothing that the town said in its approach that would make it seem like what we wanted was to hold the DEP responsible for what was going on. I mean, in the first few minutes of his presentation, Mr. Grouser said, you know, the town is okay with what the DEP is doing. And maybe he didn't say it's nuanced, right? It's a very nuanced argument, because there's the town being okay with the gas wells, which a lot of you have, or some of you have said, yes, we think that that's important. And then there's the grander DEP plan, which is putting down the geomembrane. And the judge hasn't been involved in this. He hasn't been reading reports. He hasn't been at these meetings. So the judge, when he looks at a plan, and the plan that was submitted with the argument was the burger plan, you know, think about it. He doesn't know the nuances of step 1, step 2. So I think it was poorly done. And another resident and I tried to approach Mr. Bucco and ask him why there's no town injunction against the whole plan. And well, Mr. Bucco dismissed us. And my whole issue is we've given you information that we've researched. We've researched information about the Highlands Act. We've researched other areas of the law that could be applicable, that you could have made this a stronger argument, maybe looked at more than one, just, you know, the simple case law. There could be a lot more that could have been argued, and filing for an injunction against the whole plan. I mean, that's what we've been calling for. It's not just the core sampling. And it's just disappointing, and it's disappointing because we spend our time doing this because we care, and we say it in front of you, and we hope that you take note of what we're saying, and nobody ever takes notes, except a few of you. But, you know, my spouse came up here and talked about the law in detail, and you may not agree about the interpretation of the law, you may not agree it applies, but it just doesn't seem like anything's been done looking into those points that we've created, that we brought up. Now, I asked at the last meeting how you guys felt individually, and I think each of you, except I think Mr. Schmidt didn't answer, each of you said that you wanted to see what the core sample readings would come back with, and we're not going to get those. So, at what point are you going to make a decision? Because if we're not going to get them, then what are you going to base your decision on? You've been asked again today, what do you think should happen, and you won't answer. And it's frustrating because what are you going to base your opinions on now? Are you just going to let the DEP keep, I guess, steamrolling everybody? I mean, you're just not even voicing an opinion at this point. When you know that you're not going to get, you know, the key that you said that you needed to give us a response, it's frustrating. I mean, nobody likes being here. Nobody likes standing here. Nobody likes sitting here. But, you know, we'd like to hear something from you, and you guys you don't answer, and it's, you know, it's just a failure.
I think we've stated our case and your support very well. What I would like is Mr. Browser to respond to your comments. Okay? I sat in on that course session. I think it's adequate.
I was asked to prepare the order to show cause on Thursday night before it was filed. It was filed Monday afternoon. I prepared the best application I could prepare in the amount of time that I had. I worked closely with the Township's expert, and the argument set forth was the argument that could be set forth in view of the expert's opinion. And I cannot make arguments that are beyond what an expert was willing to say, and I did the best with what I had and made the arguments that could be made. There was no other arguments that could be made beyond which were made. I know some interesting issues were raised tonight. And again, at the end of the day, the DEP was acting under its emergency order. The judge found it to be that, and the final closure plan has not been put into place yet, and the DEP is going to get wide discretion in the implementation of its emergency order.
Thank you, and as I said, I did not blame you because it was quite apparent how little time you were given to prepare, and that's part of the frustration because I brought up taking the DEP for an injunction for weeks before you were hired. I can't blame you. I mean, I know what that's like to be called a few days. You had weeks to come up with a plan, and you call him on Thursday. I mean, that's part of our I guess issue with it, and also I understand that you don't necessarily know everything else that's gone on here, but you know, there's a legal framework that we've presented to you and asked you to look into for fighting for our rights, and it just seems like you don't want to pay attention to it. It just, maybe it's too complicated for you to figure it out. Who knows? But you know, when we ask you how do you stand, you have to come up with an answer at some point.
Attend next week's meeting and perhaps it would help.
Okay, but next week's meeting is like you said, it's based on the expert report. Last time you said you would base your decision on core samples, so
We did.
you did.
Go ahead.
It's videotaped, and I remember very clearly what was said. So I don't know how you're going to come up with what the core samples are if you're not gonna get them. So, you know, if you're gonna go with whatever the expert report says, that's actually going back on your word from last week, or last 2 weeks.
We'll let you know after we do review the report. We've just about run out of time for this part of the session, and we will be back.
Mr. Hall, I think wanted to.
Can I just, Myrna, there is one, can I just?
Oh, absolutely, Mr. Walker.
Because she is asking some good questions. There is some, one of the suggestions made was to immediately open the 9 core well samples, or wells that were originally dug on site, because there is some thought that they, in fact, I think it was stated up here previously, that they did do some testing on that. So we're gonna get that going first thing tomorrow morning, but let's see what comes out of that, how quickly we can get it back. I don't know how fast this is gonna be. I mean, we've been asking for information for quite some time, and you know, on other areas, and they haven't really responded, but we will take that immediately as a to-do item to see what, you know, kind of response we get out of it. We really wanted to see what was in. It's not unrealistic to suggest that we should be able to see what's in the soil. I just don't understand.
Right, and I
just don't get it.
And my point is, everything takes time, and so we should have been, the town should have been working on the injunction before Thursday. They should have been at it for weeks now. And also, if anything's ever going to be done about the whole long-term capping plan, then I suggest you start thinking about it now and not calling a lawyer like a day before it's all done. And that's the frustration. And I understand everything takes time, and I understand I know you want answers too, Mr. Hall. I know you do. My point is, everything takes time, so start planning now.
Yeah. Myrna, honestly, I just want to answer her questions. Just let me. Okay. We just didn't hire him that Thursday. We looked around for an environmental attorney previous to this. When we hit the point in that meeting that you folks were all at, we were as discouraged as you were. We immediately reached out at that point, but it takes a while to bring the person on, so it was.
So when did you start? I'm sorry, can you tell me when?
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, you know, that's when we, you know, made a decision at that point to start bringing.
The DEP meeting was like a month ago, so.
Well, right the day after the DEP meeting, that's when we started bringing on, but before that, we were looking around to provide some additional support to Mr. Bucco in this situation. We just didn't just pick a person out of the hat, you know what I mean? Obviously, Mr. Grouser is very, very well versed.
Sure, the first time I came to the council meetings was a month before the DEP meeting, and I asked for you guys to consider that at that first meeting, so it's been 2 months. Just.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I will close the public portion now, continue on with the regular agenda, and we will have a second portion at the end of the agenda.